On your feet! Get them going!
Oh, hello! Welcome, everyone, back to Cross Examinations Live. I am your host, Mike Esmode. We are a little bit late today because, well, I don't want to blame anybody, but I'm going to throw my wife under the bus. She decided to put Godfather 2 on at like midnight. Oh, boy. I'm not going to not watch Godfather 2. You know what I'm saying? Hold on a second. Okay. I'm not going to not watch Godfather 2. And so I watched Godfather 2 till 4 o'clock in the morning. I don't know, it was late. And so I woke up. It was 11:59. And I'm like, yeah, cross-examination starts in 1 minute. However, I cannot move that fast. So here we are now. I'm trying to get a little bit of sunlight. Sunny San Diego. Look at my view. I mean, could you just die? Could you just die? This is the view you have from your house every morning. I was thinking about yesterday's show and sort of the back and forth we were having with Lou the Skeptic and who's the other guy, Lucifer or something or other. About well, first of all, it was about abiogenesis and cell um, construction and all that stuff, and I don't know. It's just I'd really like to sit down sometime and go through. Oh, by the way, there's Max. Um, I'd like some time to go through sort of a when do even a skeptic or an atheist or whatever, when do you think it becomes too improbable to be credible? All right, because I think a lot of these I never did when I was an agnostic. I never even looked through this information. It's like, oh yeah, you mean a lightning struck a puddle of goo and created life? Okay, that sounds plausible. Does it though? Does it? Because I never thought what the heck that meant. And then I read a book by a PhD named A.E. Wilder Smith called The Natural Sciences Know Nothing of Evolution. And it broke down exactly what the necessary, it broke down how chemically, because this is all chemistry, right? This is all um, how chemically you can get from just base molecules to an amino acid, which is the first, quote unquote, the first building block of life, right? And what you actually have to get to is a reproducible amino acid, which is significantly harder than just getting to an amino acid level. So to get from raw molecules, just like, stars bang together and they create electrons and protons. They well, maybe not electrons, but they create hydrogen and um, gold and freaking whatever you think the process is. That well, that's another. Yeah, stars bang together and create gold and silver and zinc and magnesium and what? Just this the process of things blowing up creates the entire chemical pantheon. What is this? All right, that's a step further back that I never really even thought about. None of this makes sense if you actually think about it. But what you have to do, by the way, if anybody is here who's in the Discord, can you please drop the link in the Discord and let people know that I started? um, yeah, honestly, there's only 3 people here. It's like nobody got notifications. But there's people in the chat. Say hi. I haven't gotten any chats yet. So I will continue. So to get from the presumed base chemical components into a amino acid, what has to happen is lightning or some electrical source, some power, has to go through and essentially break up certain types of molecules. And I guess it's like electrolysis. You know, like in electrolysis, you can break up water into its base elements. So you can take water and you break it up, and it becomes hydrogen and oxygen. Right? What's up, Muppet on Meds and James GSR? I can't remember. I don't remember. I gave this book to an agnostic friend of mine, and he never gave it back. So I can't go look it up. But there's a whatever the molecules are that amino acids are created with. What happens is you basically electrolyze these with lightning hitting a puddle, whatever, and the molecules break up into what he referred to as left-handed and right-handed molecules. Right? Now, the natural tendency of these molecules is to want to reconnect. So if you have a pool of these molecules and then you break them all up into left and right hands, and then they go back to shake hands, they randomly organize themselves again into strands. So it'll go like left hand, right hand, right hand, right hand, left hand, right hand, left hand, left hand, left hand. It's completely random, the order in which they will organize, but they will just zip themselves back together in a line. That is technically an amino acid. Okay? And I believe that is technically what the is it Stanley Meyer or Stanley Miller? Back in the 50s and the 60s and 70s, they were doing this. They were saying they had created an amino acid. That's technically what they did. They created a single strand amino acid. Now, the problem with a single strand amino acid is that it's non-reproducible. So really, all you've done is you've created the facade of life. Well, not life. The facade of the first building block of life. It's like the first building block, but all you get is one Lego. You don't get to build the whole kit. You just get one Lego. And really, you have to cut that Lego in half because you only got one half of one Lego. In order for that amino acid to become a reproducible amino acid, which could then create more amino acids, these strands, I don't know what the minimum is, but these strands grow longer because, like I said, they naturally want to connect, right? So the strands can be tens of thousands. I don't know. I'm guessing probably ultimately millions of molecules long. In order for one of those strands to become reproducible, it has to find in this sea of randomness, whatever this puddle of randomness that there is, it has to find another strand, however long it is. That in itself, by the way, that in itself, just finding, because they're constantly growing, just finding 2 that are the exact same length would be like winning the lottery over and over and over again, right? Just finding 2 of a random number between, call it 1 and infinity, Finding two of those in a random pool to find each other and start and match. That's hard enough. The reality is this random, like I said, let's say black and white instead of left hand, right hand. Black, white, white, black, white. This random, digital code of numbers that's ever extending has to find another exact duplicate of itself. So both black, white, white, black, right? An exact duplicate of itself in both code and in length. They have to find each other and they have to bond because they have to like zip each other together. That is a reproducible amino acid. That is the quote unquote first building block of life. At what point does the skeptic look at that and say, chances are slim to none that is possible? I've actually gotten AI, and the funny thing about AI is they always want to go back to like, well, scientific consensus, and I like argue with them. I'm like, I don't want scientific consensus. I want logic and reason. I want you to eschew scientific consensus because that's not truth. Logic and reason. Yeah, we outside today just for now. I'm gonna go back in the house in a minute. But I've actually gotten AI to agree that this is functionally impossible without intelligent design. That was fun. Of course, some people will say like, well, AI will say whatever you want it to say. You've never argued with AI. Max is outside, but I'm going back there. Because it's time. It's time. What? No, I'm on cross examinations. It's time to close up my greeny screeny. Oh, hi, Max. All right, let's enter studio here. Browser cannot connect. Oh, I have to turn off LES. I got to do another video on the other channel. I'm late. Is this off yet? Start cam. All right, I'm going to back out of here. And add to stage. Look at that filter. Filter makes me look so much younger. I have it on minimum setting too. It's funny. I dropped the link in you for the Discord. Thank you very much. Welcome, everybody. So, yeah. Let me invite Edwin. See if he wants to pop in here. If he's not too busy. Hello. He looks like he's taking a nap. So he probably will not manage to get in here. Sorry, I'm late. Boom. I'm going to throw this out to a couple other communities that I usually harass with my link. Ha ha ha. General Brawl. Wait, no. General, yeah, that's it. Boom, chagalaga. Boom, chagalaga, boom, chagalaga, boom, boom, chagalaga, boom, chagalaga, boom. All right. Oh, yeah, that's right. Edwin's not feeling well. Yes, I do hope he feels better too. Healthy as an ox, that one. Healthy as an ox, I'm sure. Just the fact the Earth is the right size for gravity to work, or we would not be out of orbit from the sun, not to mention we are the correct distance from the sun. Oh, there's so many things.
There's so many things, Muppet. Sorry. Why do I start yawning as soon as I come in the house? Absorb some of that good old sunlight. Alrighty then. Yeah, so okay. I wanted to try to get to that point where just the amino acid, just the first building block. All right, got it. Let's just pretend for a second that somehow or another, impossibility beyond impossibility. Yes, a bolt of lightning struck a puddle of goo and somehow or another created that situation that I just explained is impossible. And the first amino acid was created without, all by random meaningless chance. Let's just, for argument's sake, let's say that actually happened. Now you've got one reproducible amino acid reproducing itself. Why? First, I pause here at why. Why is it going to reproduce itself? You have to remember, like I showed yesterday, the cell structure of DNA replication. That's happening constantly in your body, like 10,000 times a minute. I don't even know how fast it happens. But the machine, I'm not even saying the mechanism, it's a machine. It is a pre-programmed machine built of proteins. Just the minimum number of, do you guys remember that video from yesterday? It is a minimum number of proteins. It is like maybe if you had a 30 or 40 piece Lego set, you could build a model of the machine that replicates DNA, right? Like that many proteins. There's like 30 or 40 proteins, I think, on that thing. If you had 30 or 40 Legos and you built this machine, well, let's call them cogs, whatever, and you built this machine. Now, how are you going to program that to replicate DNA? It comes inherently programmed. Every one of those proteins knows what to do. And keep in mind, it's replicating DNA, which means there's no DNA in that machine, which means there's no program in those molecules. The DNA is the program of the human body. If there's no program, the machine that is making the program is too small to hold the program. I never even thought about that. How is the machine doing its job, tearing apart and rebuilding and replicating DNA when it has no DNA in it telling it what to do? What's telling those molecules what to do? This is like mind-blowing to me because I never thought about it. In the like sense, what would tell that first reproducible amino acid, you know what you should do? You should reproduce. That's it. I need an agnostic in here because I know you guys all just you're with me, right? I need someone who's the opposite brain. Where is our skeptic? Is there any skeptic just freaking not talking in the chat that wants to step up and say, "Oh yeah, right." All right, let's put that aside even and say, okay, they can somehow or another. The lightning gave these molecules enough intelligence. The lightning gave molecules intelligence to want to reproduce and become more of itself. It gave it a natural drive. Lightning gave molecules the natural drive to reproduce. Drake says, well, I used to be an agnostic, but I had similar thoughts to yours. You can't really sit on the fence at a certain point. You have to. That's what I'm saying. It takes way more faith to be an atheist. It takes way more faith to be an atheist. How is this? We don't know everything, but science shall prove us right one day. That's called faith. That's called faith. And way more faith than any Christian has ever needed. Cool. I want to be smart. Can I get struck by lightning too? All right. Okay. So presume. Let's put away all the doubt again. Shove it all back into the closet like agnostics have to do. Sorry, Mike. I've always thought of science as the study of God's rules. That's the way it was created. That's right. Science, falsely they're called, is what the Bible says about what's happening now. Okay, so you've got it. The lightning gave the intelligence to the molecules and told it to. The lightning told the molecules to reproduce. Therefore, the molecules reproduced. No intelligence or guidance required. Random, meaningless lightning told random, meaningless molecules to go forth and multiply and replenish the earth. Okay. So what you have is a world full of amino acids. Now, how do you coalesce amino acids into creating the proteins? Not just the proteins, the machines. Even if it's a simple 30 cog machine, right? Not even as complex as a flagellum. A machine. Gosh, that's the interesting thing. Is like you'll have strands of proteins, and then you'll have other little machine. This is how. Oh my gosh, I should grab this video. Let me see if I can find it real quick. No, that's way too complex for what I'm trying to get to. I'm trying to get from the amino acid to the cell, the simple cell. At what point does the agnostic say, all right, that is just a bridge that it's a bridge too far. It's a road that can't be traveled. How do you get from a Lego that can reproduce itself? Boop, 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 boop. Look, I'm a red Lego. I can make another red Lego. I can make another red Lego. I can make another red Lego. Because that's all you've got with a reproducible amino acid. Is something that can Xerox itself. Boop, 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 boop. Great. Now I've got a world full of red Legos. What can I build? John Mintz, I didn't need to know that. Life happens from lightning. Reminds me of Frankenstein. Yeah, that's probably where Mary Shelley got the idea. Wait, what? You're saying lightning struck a puddle of goo and gave it life. Okay, I do this with my story. Probably. At what point do you have enough red Legos that you can I mean, without intelligence, you can't just shove a bunch of red Legos into a mixer, and they're going to create usable machines, right? It's not going to create mitochondrial DNA. It's not going to create, right? Well, all the other, what was the, I want to look at this on a molecular level, though. Mechanisms. Let's see. What would be not just mechanisms? I'd look up subatomic mechanisms, cellular respiration, cells. Your body's molecular machines. That's the one we showed yesterday. Oh, no, this is a different one. Okay, I didn't show this one. I guess we're going to just jump into this because I don't think they have anything for the simplest of simple cells, which is what I really want. But that's the thing. That's the thing. The cell requires DNA. Cells, every how do I phrase this? Let's see. Oh, those are atoms. Electron transport chain. How cells become specialized. Let's try this one. So, okay, each of these isn't going to have DNA in it, but it's part of the machine. Again, this just blows my mind. I never thought about that. I get the cells have DNA in them telling the cell what to do, but the cell within the cell, it's also telling somehow the parts what to do. So the parts aren't just, the parts don't have information. The parts are being told what to do by the DNA. I don't know, man. This is all too much for me. I wish I could find whatever the simplest part is of the cell, and like say how do you have the say each color on this is one of those Legos. How do you program? Actually, it's not. It looks like it's 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so this is probably 4. Let's say this is 4, 4, 4, 4, 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Say this is 24 Legos. All right. I'm sure it's not. I'm sure that's the wrong number. It's 24 Legos. It's such a difficult thing. I mean, like, this is 4 parts, right? This bell is 4 parts. But it doesn't have a self. How can you have something with just 4 parts and it knows what its job is? This bell doesn't just ring like at noon and tell me the show's on. Right? It doesn't compress itself and create a ding and say, Mike, it's time, it's noon. There's no intelligence in the materials. These are proteins. It's just proteins. Without like nerve connectors, right? It's like there's not a bunch of wires telling every single protein, every single molecule. Look at all those molecules. Those molecules are doing parts. They're being told what is telling these things what to do. There's no connection here. Does it run on 5G? Does the DNA in every cell in your body run? Is it telepathic? How is it delivering the information? Because that's what it has. That's what it is. It's necessarily delivering information and orders to every protein and molecule in its little realm. The DNA is like the boss in the factory, and every protein and every molecule inside the factory is obedient to the boss. But the boss doesn't have a mouth? How is this all happening? And again, okay, it's time. But again, my question to the skeptic is, at what point do you look at this and realize if you had to lay your life on the line, let's not be dramatic. If you had to lay your job on the line, I don't know, money on the line, whatever it is. If you had to put some money on the line, would you say it's more likely that all of this happened through random, meaningless process? And I know people try to argue it's not random and meaningless. Without a God, it is random and meaningless. There's without intelligence. Don't even call it a God. That's why they call it intelligent design. You can remove it. You can pretend like it's a greater power space alien complex outside of our universe, which is functionally just doing the same thing as God. It doesn't matter. You have to escape the idea that everything you saw, everything I explained, can be attributed to randomness and meaninglessness. Because if you're a materialist, that's all you have. That's all you have is randomness and meaninglessness. And if you say there's order to the universe, order cannot come about by an explosion of matter. Order is not a natural order. The second law of thermodynamics, entropy, proves that the order of the universe is constantly leaning or moving towards disorder. So if you know what, it's like redshift, right? If the redshift proves that the galaxies and the universe is all spreading apart, then you have to reverse the order in time. That's how you get to the idea of the Big Bang, right? Well, then use that in your brain with order, with meaning. With thermodynamics. If it is the law in physics that everything is tending toward disorder, roll it back. That does not mean the universe was created with a maximum of disorder. It means it was created with a maximum of order. The order would have tended towards perfection. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The perfect God created the perfect universe, and it was good. From there, sin entered the world, and with it, entropy. And as sin, I know this is a metaphysical thing, that's a leap you're not going to take, but that is what we believe as Christians. Sin entered the world, and because of it, the universe essentially was cursed and began a slow descent into disorder. And that's why we are where we are today. All right. That was my monologue. Let's get to Exodus chapter 24. And I'm sure now that I'm going to start reading the Bible, Lou the Skeptic will show up in chat and want to discuss all the stuff that I've been waiting for a skeptic to discuss. Muppet said, one thing I like about science, the more we learn, the more complex it gets. God is a genius. That's right. It's like that time I turned on my computer and it wrote a game all by itself. AI could probably do that for you now. Muppets on Meds. Think about the first bee. Where did it get the knowledge to build a hive or make honey? God gave Solomon wisdom. All of nature has wisdom, has a wisdom from somewhere. Well, I think like, well, even that case, it's what do they call it? They do it by oh my gosh, word not in brain. Instinct, right? What accounts for instinct? Genetic programming, whatever. Okay, the first amino acid couldn't have any instinct, right? Instinct is a pre-program. We're pre-programmed to do certain things. I'm pre-programmed to breathe, right? I don't do it by thinking, I need to breathe. Heart, I need you to beat again. I'm not, there's pre-programmed parts of existence. And I think maybe, bugs and mostly animals, they do sort of things mostly by instinct. That doesn't mean that some animals can't have, unique characteristics. And people think I'm being hyperbolic when I say that we live in a cursed reality. No, we are. We do. Science proves it. And roll the clock back. Science proves in the beginning it was perfect. It was good. God created it that way. Funny that. It's funny, they never roll the window back on the second law of thermodynamics. They'll roll it back on redshift and give us the Big Bang, but they won't roll it back on the second law. And he said unto Moses, Exodus chapter 24, ladies and gentlemen, I know we're a little bit late, but it is what it is. And he said unto Moses, come up unto the Lord, thou and Aaron and Nadab and Abihu and 70 of the elders of Israel, and worship ye afar off. I always thought that was curious that the number is 70, and then the number of the Septuagint is also 70. There's always this balance in Scripture with numbers. Just something that makes you pause and think. All right, and Moses alone shall come near the Lord, but they shall not come nigh. Neither shall the people go up with him. And Moses came and told the people. Sorry. All right, first of all, I'm going to finish my coffee. And I'm going to clear my throat with some water. What did I say, guys? What did I say? As soon as I start reading the Bible, Luke shows up, finally. The brain produces instinct and intuition. No brain equals no instincts or no intuition. Brooklyn, you are seriously going to have to go back and watch the beginning of this. Tell me what the instincts and intuition and where they came from for the first amino acid to reproduce itself. Hey, it's Nadab and Abihu, the sons of Aaron, who offered strange fire to God and were killed for an improper sacrifice. Hey, spoilers. Sheesh, buddy. Moses came to tell the people all the words of the Lord and all the judgments, and all the people answered with one voice and said, all the words which the Lord hath said, we will do. Mm-hmm. And Moses wrote all the words of the Lord and rose up early in the morning and builded an altar under the hill and 12 pillars, according to the 12 tribes of Israel. And he sent young men of the children of Israel, which offered burnt offerings and sacrificed peace offerings of oxen unto the Lord. And Moses took half of the blood and put it in basins, and half of the blood he sprinkled on the altar. And he took the book of the covenant and read it in the audience of the people. And they said, all that the Lord hath said we will do, and be obedient. Mm-hmm. Mike, it's 6,000 years old. There are no spoilers. Brooklyn Lou was speaking to human instincts and intuitions. I know, Brooklyn. I know, Lou. But that's honestly, dude, you go back and watch the beginning of this episode. Like the first half hour. I was begging you to show up then. But you don't set your alarm. Much as my bell will not ring itself, you will not ring yourself, Teach. I'm glad you're here, but man, I wish you'd been here earlier. Buddy Rabbit, would you stop spoiling things for people? Sheesh. And Moses took and behold the blood and sprinkled it on the people and said, behold the blood of the covenant which the Lord hath made with you concerning all these words. You know, I've always wondered about the sacrifice. I mean, people do go back to the Adam's sin and how he and God provided the leather, I guess. What would you call it? The skins that covered them. God provided it, which meant God sacrificed probably a lamb. Not gonna, it just to be consistent. I'm sure he is. I'm sure it was probably a lamb that was sacrificed to cover Adam and Eve's up after the sin. The sprinkling of the blood of the covenant, this reminds me of the covenant with Abraham, where covenants were made by sacrificing animals and then walking through the sacrifice, right? Like you'd cut animals in half and then you'd walk through, because the promise is, should I break this covenant, let what happened to these animals happen unto me, right? That's the promise of the covenant. That is the embodiment of the covenant. And so it is a blood ritual that God walked through instead of Abraham. I think I covered this like last week, but now he's taking, and this isn't stuff I've heard. This is just, I'm kind of running this stuff through my head because of what I understand about the original covenant with Abraham. He's taking the covenant and he's applying it with the blood. He's applying it to all of Israel. I think that is like the meaning of the sprinkling of the blood on the people. I think. I'm not a theologian. You guys know that. So this is just sort of how I'm understanding this. I could be wrong. If somebody knows better, buddy, tell me I'm wrong. You're good at that. Then went up Moses and Aaron and Nadab and Abihu and 70 of the elders of Israel, and they saw the God of Israel. And there was under his feet, as it were, a paved work of sapphire stone, and as it were, the body of heaven in his clearness. What an interesting 24:10. All right, let's go Exodus 24:10. Let's read that in different translations. Let's go with Amplified Bible. And they saw a manifestation of the God of Israel, and under his feet there appeared to be a pavement of sapphire, just as clear as the sky itself. Okay, that reads, all right, Amplified Bible is usually pretty good, I think. And as it were the body of heaven in his clearness. So his is an added word in the King James. Whenever you're reading the King James or whenever you're reading any Bible, if you see a word this when it's italicized, it's not there to be emphasized. Those are words added to the original language to make it make more sense in the English language. So, and under his feet were, right? And under his feet, as it were, paved work. That's the way it would read in Hebrew. But because they want it, I don't know why I don't think it's always necessary, but sometimes they want to add words to give it a little more clarity or to read better. So again, there's no English. God didn't hand us an English Bible. He handed us Hebrew, Greek, Aramaic. The rest, no translation is perfect. So take that. If you're one of these guys who thinks that the King James Bible is written by God, like in the sense of like, it's perfect, then you got another thing coming. ESV. And they saw the God of Israel, and there was under his feet, as it were, a pavement of sapphire stone, like the very heaven for clearness. There you go. I do love Bible Hub for ease of access to different translations. Yes, yes. All right. Let's move on, because I don't think that's actually important. Not to say that every single word isn't important, but I can't grasp anything of value right now in this moment in time. That's the cool thing about the Bible, though. It's like sometimes this might not have anything connecting with me right now, but there may come a time when I'm reading through this and some very particular meaning will jump out at me, or I'll be going through something that has something specific to do with a scripture that I've overread 100 times, and then suddenly that line in scripture will speak to me like with such clarity that, and that's why you could read the Bible over and over and over again, and it'll speak to you in different situations in your life at different times. It's almost as if it's a living. He gave us copies of the Bible. We literally have no originals of these texts. Well, no, but we know what the original said because we have so many ancient documents, so many ancient copies that we can compare them one to another and see that they are almost they're functionally identical to each other. There's like spelling and syntax differences, but other than that, they have been copied completely faithfully from the original autographs. They are literally, Brooklyn, if you didn't know this, they are literally and by far and wide the most trustworthy documents in all of antiquity. And you can look that up. I think the next one is maybe the writings of Julius Caesar, or like the Iliad or the Odyssey or something like that. And those copies come hundreds, if not thousands of years later. Well, hundreds, probably hundreds. There's minimal numbers of those, and none of them are identical. Literally, look this up. There's not even a second place. There's not even it's so far removed from the trustworthiness of the Bible that the second place is like in a whole different category of untrustworthiness. It's crazy. Okay. Louie, are you not comprehending what I'm saying? If we have copies from all these different places, right? Like in different languages even, and you compare them to each other, and you see that they're all identical. Well, okay, let's stick with the original languages. The Greek is all identical. The Hebrew is all identical. The Aramaic is all identical. then you know that the original was being meticulously copied. Meticulously. Which means we know what the original said. Because the people who were copying these, I don't want to go into the whole thing about how the Hebrew texts were copied, but it took like 6 months to copy one scroll, and if they found one error in the scroll, they would burn it. Even if they spent 6 months copying the book of Genesis, 6 months, letter by letter. It was a ritual wherein they would, okay, I'll just tell you real quick. They would be ritually cleansed, and they would have the original, and then they would have the blank scrolls, right? And this was long before books, so they had to do this all on scrolls. And they would have an awl. They'd put the awl on one letter. They'd have the quill, and they'd copy that letter. Then they would move the awl to the next letter, and then they would move the quill, and they would copy that letter. Every single time they came upon the name of the Lord, YHW, is the Tetragrammaton, they would break their quill, they would ritually bathe, they would get a new quill, a fresh virgin quill, and start and write the name of the Lord, and then go on until the next time there was the name of the Lord. They would do this meticulous copying, letter by letter by letter. After that was done, they would do an equidistant letter test. So they would go through and they would count every certain number of letters, and if at any point the letters stopped lining up, they would burn that 6 months worth of work, because they wouldn't allow a false copy to exist. That's how fastidious, and that's also why so bloody expensive scrolls were, or copies of the Bible were back then. Oh, Wesley, somebody mute Wesley. I don't have time for this. I ain't got time for you, Wesley. You're just a troublemaker that rambles nonsense. And upon the nobles of the children of Israel he laid not his hand. Also they saw God and did eat and drink. That's funny. I never noticed that before. And upon the nobles of the children of Israel he laid not his hand. Also they saw God and did eat and drink. So they had a party. They saw God and they partied. That's a little funny. And the Lord said unto Moses, come up to me into the mount and be there, and I will give thee tables of stone, and a law and commandments which I have written, that thou mayest teach them. And Moses rose up, and his minister Joshua, and Moses went up into the mount of God. And he said unto the elders, tarry ye here for us, until we come again unto you. And behold, Aaron and Hur are with you. And if any man have any matters to do, let him come unto them. And Moses went up into the mount, and a cloud covered the mount. And the glory of the Lord abode upon Mount Sinai, and the cloud covered it 6 days. And the 7th day he called unto Moses out of the midst of the cloud. And the sight of the glory of the Lord was like devouring fire on the top of the mountain in the eyes of the children of Israel. And Moses went into the midst of the cloud, and gat him up into the mount. And Moses was in the mount 40 days and 40 nights. That's a long time. Yeah, and I showed a week or two ago, I showed the top of Mount Sinai. How it's all blackened. It's not volcanic. It's just the top of the mountain just happens to be completely blackened for some reason. Couldn't be the fire of the Lord. All right. Lou says, all we can do is compare copies to copies. We have no originals to compare it to. If we had originals, we could compare, but we cannot do this. We can only look at copies. Right. But that's not a problem, Lou. we can get to what the original said. It's like, okay, take the Iliad, right? Let's find out real quick. Copies of ancient manuscripts in number. All right. Ancient manuscript comparison chart. Let us see. So, so the New Testament, we have 5,600 ancient copies of between the 1st and 2nd century, which is less than 100 years from the writing. Homer's Iliad, the gap is 500 years. We have 643 copies. Accuracy of the copies, 95%. Accuracy of the copies of the New Testament, 99.5%. And again, the 0.5%, actually it's 99.6%. This is off. We'll just say it. 0.5% is spelling and syntax. So just like the English, you know how like in English we go from color in England, COLOUR, then in America it's COLOOR. That would be counted as an inaccuracy because that's how well they copied it. Sophocles, 1,400 years difference, only 193 copies. Aristotle, 1,400 years, 49 years. All right, but let's go with the Iliad. Yeah, I thought it was either the Iliad or the Odyssey. So you've got 643 copies, right, with 95% accuracy. How can we understand what the original autograph that Homer wrote said? How do we understand that, Lou? You take the 643 copies, right? And there's going to be 5% difference between all the copies. So you compare them to each other and you see where the discrepancies are. It's like you know what it's kind of like. Have you ever seen those remember those posters where you had to blur your vision, and when you blurred your vision an image popped out? Remember those? So what's happening in those is there's a constant pattern, right? And when you double your vision, what you're seeing is the pattern being formed, like the pattern is being broken is what's happening. The pattern is being broken, but in a very specific way so that you can see a letter or an animal or a shape, right? In the same way, if you have two copies of a thing and you sort of you double your vision of it and overlay it, you can see where the discrepancies are. If you ever see those things like on social media where people are like, they do like a wall of 8s, and then like there's a 5 in there somewhere, and they're like, find the 5. All you have to do is double your vision and it overlays the 8s. It's like boop, and then the 5 will just pop out like a sore thumb. That's what you do with ancient documents. So if you have two copies of Homer's Iliad, 95% intact, or 95% they agree with each other, you overlay them, you compare them to each other. The things that do not overlay, one of those is wrong. One of those is in error. You have 3 copies, you do it again, there's probably another place that's in error. But because you have a third witness, you know which of the errors in the previous 2 comparisons. You do that 643 times, and you can wipe clean all of the errors because you know what the majority copyists got correct from the original autograph. That's just simply textual criticism. That's how you know what Homer originally wrote. It works with Homer. It works with the New Testament, except we've got 9 times, nearly 10 times as many copies, and they're freaking 400 years closer to the source of the author. So, yes, I can say without doubt, we know what the original autographs said. It doesn't matter if we have the original autographs. Just like it doesn't matter if we have Homer's originals. We have Homer's originals. We have, well, not originals. We have what Homer originally wrote. We have what the New Testament authors originally wrote. That comprehend? Because we're in an hour. Here's the problem. It is not inaccuracy of the copies. It is the fact that do we not have any idea who wrote most of the Bible, especially Old Testament. I think they did a good job in copying. Well, at least we got that far. That's another conversation for another time. Wrong is doing a lot of heavy lifting in that statement. What? It allegedly works with Homer if you can believe Homer wrote it. Well, maybe it was a pen name. His name was actually Bart. All right. That's a good way to describe it. All right. Thank you. The first scribes would have been just as dedicated and passionate as later scribes. Yeah. Melissa says, it seems unlikely that the first copies of the originals would have been done sloppily, then each generation after that copied meticulously. True. Stereographs are a photographic format that consists of two images mounted side by side to create a three-dimensional effect when viewed through a stereoscope. Okay. When people make copies of anything, aren't they usually similar? Having copies that are similar does not mean much. We do see errors in these copies, Scrabble and other type of errors. All right, I think you and I are in agreement. We can get to, just as we can with the Iliad, we can get to the original autographs with the New Testament. Your question is who actually wrote them. Again, we're over an hour. Lou, please try to show up early next time. I can't make this into a 2-hour show. On average, historical textual documents we have that are considered accurate and reliable are 300, 500 years after estimated original. Yeah, I know. I just showed this, the whole chart. I mean, Caesar's is 1,000 years, and we don't doubt what Caesar wrote, right? But it's 1,000 years between the time he wrote it and the first extant copy, and there's only 10 copies. And they're probably very, very inaccurate to each other. So yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like the next second place is the Iliad, and it's like 10 times less reliable than the Bible, or it's just in a totally different league. And we have, I think we have 24,000 copies of the Old Testament, if I remember correctly. And if you extended it out, like the ancient copies here are less than 100. They're first to second century AD. If you gave the kind of breadth to, let's call Tacitus or Lucretius or Caesar, you gave it 1,000 years breadth, you literally couldn't count the number of copies of the Bible in the 1,000-year time span between the 1st century and the 10th century. It would be unfathomable. The number of copies, the number of ancient copies we would have would be so off the chart if you gave it that same breadth of time as we give for Caesar. It would just insane. Never mind the 9,300 fragmentary pieces in a dozen other languages that share families and textual and language to those Greek manuscripts. Yeah. All right. 5,700 Greek fragments is insanity for works of antiquity. Yeah, there were so many ancient copies. People used to just go to the Middle East, and they would just find them like in market. Like people stacks of papers and crap, and like archaeologists would go, and they'd go to these markets. Like, they probably don't do it anymore, but like back in the last century, they'd go to these markets and they'd just be shuffling through all these ancient papers, and there'd be like, oh, that's from the book of Matthew. Oh, that's Paul's writing. It's just like these Middle Eastern markets would just have stuff, and then they probably couldn't even read it because they were reading Arabic, but they have these old ancient Greek papers that their great grandfathers collected, and that's how many. They were just everywhere. You could go to any library, probably in the Western world, Lou, and see ancient copies of the Bible. It's ubiquitous. It's freaking everywhere. It's literally insane how many copies we have. The originals are probably in plastic sleeves on the shelf of comic book store back rooms we need to collect and hoard stuff. Yeah, it's crazy. Anyways, that's it, guys. It is way over time. Thank you all for being here. God bless us all, and we'll hopefully see you on the next exciting episode of Cross Examination.